Have you ever played Runescape while you should be doing something else? I know I have. What if I told you that it's still possible to do them at the same time? There are methods for training or even money making in the game that old school Runescape players call AFK, which stands for away from keyboard. Of course it doesn't always mean AFK literally, but there are some things in the game you can do that just require minimal input from you, so you can put your main focus on something else, such as school or work, while still getting some XP drops. So I looked into all the methods I've ever done and tested out some new ones, analyzing every method's idle time, XP per hour, how little effort it requires, and just how useful it is in general. And based on that, I put together my top 5 list of the best ones. At number 5, it's artisan skills in general, but mostly cooking, fletching and smithing. I grouped them into one since they're all pretty similar in their nature. You take raw materials from the bank, make them into something else, and repeat. These skills can be trained profitably while AFK, which is why I decided to include them in the list and not something like crafting or herblore. Not only are they less AFK, they usually also cost a lot. So let's start with a simple one in this category, cooking. Cooking a full inventory of fish takes 112 game ticks, which means you can AFK for about 1 minute and 7 seconds each inventory. The banking takes just a few seconds and is very low effort. If you also wish to make profit while cooking, make sure you are wearing cooking gauntlets, and if necessary, also use the OSRS clay oven while cooking to lower your burn rates even further. Otherwise, if you don't care about the burn rate, the best cooking spots are going to be the Myth's Guild, Rogue's Den or Mor Ulrek, which all have cooking spot right next to the bank, meaning no travel time between banking and cooking at all. The XP per hour you get varies a lot by the fish you cook, but depending on your level, you can expect somewhere between 100 and 300k experience an hour, and a profit between 50 and 250,000 per hour. The second method in this category is fletching unstringed bows. Making a full inventory of unstringed bows is going to let you idle for about 50 seconds, which is less than cooking, but it's still almost as AFK. Just take a knife and fletch long bows, as they usually make more profit than short bows. I do not recommend stringing them, since even though they are faster XP per hour and usually better for profit, they are a lot less AFK. Stringing an inventory of bows only takes about 17 seconds. Fletching unstringed bows will get you somewhere between 50 and 150,000 experience per hour, depending on your fletching level, and also a profit between 50 and 250,000 GP per hour. Smithing is a little more strict. As for AFK methods, you can only smith items that consume 1 bar. For smithing, the most AFK method by far is going to be making cannonballs. Smelting cannonballs with regular ammo mold takes about 2 minutes and 40 seconds per inventory, which is extremely AFK compared to the others in this category, but it's terrible experience, making you only about 13,000 experience per hour. The profit is pretty good for such an AFK task with low requirements, making you about 250,000 GP per hour. This unfortunately also makes it very popular amongst bots and alt accounts. A better XP alternative for this would be making dart tips. Smithing a full inventory of dart tips takes about 1 minute and 20 seconds. This also gets you over 23,000 experience per hour at level 19 and going up to 59,000 experience per hour with adamant dart tips at level 74. The profit for making dart tips ranges anywhere from 20,000 to 225,000 GP per hour, depending on the type of darts, as higher tiers are usually less profitable than the lower ones. Although these are nice, you can technically profit even more while being more AFK with the skill number 4, fishing. Fishing is a no-brainer in this list. Basically any type of fishing is relatively AFK, usually depending on how often the fish spots change locations. These methods include monkfish, sharks and anglerfish for example, but there are a few places where the spots don't change at all, making them way more AFK. My favorite one being Karam ones, starting from level 65 fishing. If you also grind out the fish barrel from Temporos, which lets you hold an extra 28 fish per inventory, you can AFK for about 4 to 5 minutes per inventory easily. So depending on your fishing level and how fast you bank, you can expect about 20 to 40k XP per hour and about 150 to 250,000 GP in profit. This is also amazing for Iron Man, as it's great food and you usually catch them a lot faster than other equivalent healing fish, and all that while getting to AFK more. Although the fishing part of this is AFK, the banking is less AFK than with the previous methods, since there is no bank nearby and you need to use a teleport. If you don't have a fairy ring in your house or a quest point cape, I recommend you use the bank at the DJR fairy ring, which takes you very close to a bank in Shazian. This means you can just use a fairy ring for banking and no other teleports, while still being relatively quick and convenient. If you have a fairy ring in your house or a quest point cape, you might want to use your closest teleport to a bank, such as using Karamja Gloves 3 or 4 to the Shiloh Village Gem Mines deposit box and then return with the fairy ring, resulting in faster banking. But if you like to bank in even less time, the spot number 3 might be for you, woodcutting. I have personally started enjoying AFKing at the woodcutting guild a lot lately, for many reasons. You get a plus 7 level invisible boost at the guild, and it's also super close to the bank. The higher level trees in the guild are going to be more AFK than the lower ones, but often also lower XP, so I do recommend going for the higher tiered trees, especially if you're an Ironman who wants to fletch bows from the logs later. So to understand how AFK woodcutting really is, we need to understand how and when do the trees deplete. For most trees, including yew and magic trees, every time you receive a log, there's a 1 in 8 chance of the tree falling down, and you have a chance of getting a log every 4 game ticks, which is 2.4 seconds. Now the chance of receiving a log depends on your woodcutting level, type of tree, and also the axe you use. For example, if you're chopping yew trees at 70 woodcutting with a dragon axe, you have a 14.84% chance of receiving a log. So assuming no boosts, you're going to get a log on average every 16.2 seconds. If you're alone, this means that on average the tree will last almost 2 minutes and 10 seconds, which is pure AFK time. This also translates to about 200 logs banked per hour with minimal effort, which is about 35,000 XP and also 40,000 GP. As you level up, I definitely recommend going to the next higher tier trees. Chopping magic trees at level 80 woodcutting with a dragon axe, you're going to only have a 7.42% chance to receive a log, and if we do some quick maths on that, it's equivalent to 32.3 seconds per log, or overall an average AFK period of 259 seconds, or 4 minutes and 19 seconds. You can expect somewhere between 100 and 150 logs per hour depending on your level, which is 25 to 37.5 thousand experience per hour, and also 100 to 150,000 GP per hour. At level 90, I recommend you move to redwood trees, as they are very similar in AFK time, but result in a much higher XP rate. They have a 1 in 11 chance of depleting, so with a dragon axe and 90 woodcutting, you're going to average AFK periods of about 241 seconds, or 2 minutes and 1 second. This is about 22 seconds per log, which means about 140 to 180 logs per hour, which means you can expect XP rates of up to 69,000 per hour and also 63,000 GP per hour. If banging trees with an axe for hours upon hours isn't your thing, you might want to consider banging the subscribe button instead, or, you know, the skills at number 2, which are all combat skills. Training combat has many different methods, and actually quite a lot of them are relatively AFK. I'll bring out a few ones worth considering, but since there are so many, let's not go too deep into them. For lower levels, the go-to AFK training method for any combat skill would be killing sand crabs. I recommend doing this at the Crab Claw Isle, since there are more spawns and less contest. You can get there from the southern Zeya beach for 10,000 GP. What makes sand crabs so appealing is that you can AFK 10 minutes at a time without any worries. The sand crabs on the isle are in spawns of 3 to 4 crabs. They have 60 health, 0 defensive stats, and a max hit of just 1, which due to the low attack they hit very rarely. So you will have great DPS on them, they won't ever kill you, and you can AFK for 10 minutes until they de-aggro, after which you just reset, which means you run away from your spawn until you can see them on the minimap, and you just return, after which they will be aggressive towards you again. This is definitely my recommended method of getting a minimum of level 60 to 70 in all combat stats before even starting with Slayer. If you have unlocked Fossil Island in the early game, you could also consider doing Ammonite crabs instead, as they have the same stats and 100 health. I will not be listing the XP per hour for either of these, since it's completely dependent on your level and weapon, but I can assure you that the rates here are pretty much as good as you can get, even if you didn't AFK. As your combat stats get higher though, you will start losing out on more XP due to these monsters having relatively low health and you overkilling them. For example, if they only have 60 health and you hit 29, 29 and 29, you're going to waste 27 damage worth of XP. This is why higher level accounts may want to consider the Nightmare Zone. The lowest effort method in the Nightmare Zone would let you AFK there for about 20 minutes at a time, earning up to 85 to 90,000 melee XP per hour at high combat levels. The method means you should be doing a customizable normal rumble with the highest DPS melee gear that you have, and choosing bosses with as low defense as possible that only attack with melee. In the arena, you should use a Dwarven Rock Cake or a Locator Orb to get down to 1 health, and use Absorption Potions to survive. In normal mode, 20 minutes of AFK should be easily obtainable, but it unfortunately means less Nightmare Zone points. So if you're interested in them, you should look into other methods. But since this method is one of the most AFK things you can do in the game overall, it's definitely the one I recommend. There's also one skill that can technically be even more AFK, and it has a very unique training method. So at number 1, we have mining. I won't beat around the bush, I'm talking about shooting stars. Mining otherwise is notorious for being very not AFK. You can achieve periods of up to 30 seconds of idling at the Motherlode mine or mining amethyst, but it's a joke compared to shooting stars. In every world, a shooting star will land about once every 2 hours. To know when and where it's landing, you should use a telescope telescope in your house, with the best being a mahogany telescope, which gives you a 2-minute window for its landing time and a rough location. Old school RuneScape overall only has 76 predetermined landing sites, and about 3 to 7 of them are in the provided location, which you have to go through yourself manually to find the star. Fortunately, the wiki has this info for where each of the location is exactly. I also need to mention that if you're looking for maximum AFK, definitely don't use any shooting star clan chats or public scouting Google Docs. Since the higher amount of people mining your star, the lower your AFK period will be. Since it's very easy to scout them yourself, I definitely recommend you do that, especially because sometimes you can be the only one mining a star, which gives you the perfect AFK times. Shooting stars have multiple tiers, and you have to click again each tier. The higher the tier, the faster you mine through it. But assuming you're not 99 mining and are solo, multiple of the lower tiers go up to 25 minutes of pure idling thanks to the new RuneLight feature allowing you to idle for that long. So if you're scouting your own stars, you can sustain about 20 to 30k experience per hour throughout the whole day, which means while you're mining, it's actually even higher. Shooting stars also give you Stardust, which you should first of all use to get the Celestial Ring, which gives you an invisible +4 mining level boost. After which you can either invest in getting a Fashionscape upgrade for the Prospector set, or you can buy a bag full of gems or packs of soft clay. I for sure enjoyed the bags full of gems on my mid-level Iron Man, since I never have to worry about the main teleportation jewelry again. Besides, it's nice crafting XP to cut them and later turn into jewelry. If you enjoyed this top 5 list, check out the one on the screen as you might like that one too. Let me know in the comments what you would have listed differently, and until then, I'll see you in the next video.